Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to learn Python output function and Python input function. These are the very important and often used functions in Python. So we'll learn before we move on to the next chapter. Let me first introduce you with Python output function. In Python, we have printf function, which we have already used multiple times, and it is used to display or print the output. And there are many varieties or variants of printf function. For example, printf with variable. So here I have taken a variable as variable 1. Here we're directly passing the variable name and printing the value associated with the variable. Second variant we can have is directly passing the value inside the print function. As a next variation, we have variable comma end parameter. So with end parameter, we can specify where should be the next print statement printed on the console. If it is not used, if the end parameter is not used, by default next print statement will be printed in the next line of the console. Whereas if we use end equals, next print statement will be printed in line with the previous print statement. That is, this print statement will be printed, next print statement will be on the same line. If you provide spaces, then space will be applied. If you use a new line character inside these single quotes, then next print statement will be printed in the next line. Okay. And another variant we have is we can print the values associated with the variables along with end parameter and the separator parameter. This separator parameter is used to separate values of different variables. Another variant we can have is we can print a statement just like which I have taken here, the string, then the variables, then end parameter and separator parameter. Inside end I have used new line character, and then inside separator I have used hyphen. We can use different separators as well. So all of these variants of print functions we'll see in the coding. Before that, let us understand Python input function as well. So in certain situations, we might require to take input from the user or from the console. This can be done using the input of function in Python. For example, we can define a variable, say name equals to input of enter the name. This particular variable name will take input from the console, and by default the input value will be string. Whether you enter an integer or a float or a string or any other value, the name will be holding the string version of the input what you give. Okay. So the variation what we can bring in this particular function is we can typecast the entire input to either int, float, string as required. I hope that's clear. Now let us go to the coding part of this. Now let me create variable 1 and variable 2 which we have used in our presentation. Variable 1, let it hold a string, say demo of print of function. Let the second variable hold another string, demo of print of function, and variants of print of. Now let me print these two variables. Let me execute this line of code first. Now let me print the variable 1 and variable 2. As you can see, demo of printf function and variants of printf. So we are able to successfully print the variable 1 and variable 2. Now I can also have a print statement with directly given values. So here I'm giving 3000.0 as a value, which is a float data type. You can see I'm able to print it. Here I had passed variables, whereas here I am passing the value itself. This value can be anything like a string or a float value or an integer or the other data types which we are going to study next. So now let me introduce the other variant of print function. Like say I want to print variable 1 comma variable 2 with end parameter. Okay, let us see what end parameter does. For end parameter to check, we need to have at least two print statement one after another. Let me print other value like say 40,000. Okay, it can be observed that variable 1 value and variable 2 value are printing together with the next print statement. So there is no new line for the second print statement. If I change my code and remove end parameter itself, my code will be printing print first print function, that is variable 1 value and variable 2 value, then the second print function with value 40,000. We can also change end equals single quotes with a space. If I print again, we can have that print variable 1, variable 2. After that, the second print statement will be printed with some space as given in the end. But here we are not able to get the new line for the second print statement. So as to get that, we can have a new line character in between the single quotes. I hope this is understood. Now we can have another variant of print statement where we can use separator parameter. I have used end along with the separator parameter, which separates the values of the variables which we are printing. So it can be observed that variable 1 and variable 2 are separated by a hyphen here. We can use any other separator character as well, like colon, semicolon, or double hyphens, underscores, so as to get the benefit of end new line character along with the separator. We are using another print statement. So let me write that print completed with print of function. So after execution, we can see that two statements are printed one after another. Now if I change the end value, you can see that first print statement separated by space which I have given in the end, the second print statement will be printed. If I include the new line character, you can print the next line of the console. Let me consider a variable called name. It will hold an input which has been taken from console. For that, the default statement I want to give for the user is enter the name and colon. Okay. So when I execute this code, you can see there is a block where I can enter the name string. So let me enter Python. Okay. Now enter. So name is Python. Now if I call name, you see that it is Python. Now if I write say some digit, then it will take that value and that is considered as name. So you can see that integer is also converted to string. As I have already explained, by default input of function will consider all the inputs as a string data type. So to avoid this, what we can do, we can specify what kind of input you want other than string. Some case I want to store a counter value. So let me change that. Counter value. Now in this case, if I execute and I have given some string value, then that string will be taken as input. So as to avoid this, we have to force the user to give an integer. So by typecasting this input of function, we can do the same. So let me now execute this line of code. Now if I am printing something else and giving enter, it will give error as invalid literal of int has been given. So it is forcing us to provide an integer input. So now we can see counter has taken 262 as a valid input. Same is true with float or any other data type. Again, whatever I have explained in printf and input of function, these are the simplest things which one should know in Python. So the complex concepts related to the same, that is print and input functions, we'll learn as we go on with the course. That's all for this video. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, check my playlist and share with your friends. Thank you.